Welcome to From the Honeycomb podcast, where entrepreneurship meets creativity, intention, and mindfulness. Each episode blends honest conversation, business insight, and a unique perspective designed to spark confidence, inspiration, and a more thoughtful approach to building a business. If you're an entrepreneur, a creative professional, or someone looking to build something that truly matters, you've come to the right place. So settle in, take a deep breath, and let the buzz of positive energy spark your curiosity. Today, I am joined by Amanda Laney, horticulturist, the founder of Botanical Horizons, and the director of the Ladies Lifestyle Network in Raleigh, North Carolina. Amanda approaches outdoor design as both an art and a collaboration, creating spaces that are as intentional as they are beautiful. She's known for her thoughtful approach to working with clients, blending creativity with careful listening and big picture thinking. Whether she's shaping landscapes or building community, Amanda brings curiosity, care, and a people-first mindset to everything she does, always aiming for outcomes that feel meaningful and lasting. Amanda, welcome to From the Honeycomb podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here today.
Yeah, excited to have you. As you know, we begin every episode by sharing something that we are grateful for in the present moment. So what are you grateful for?
I think in the present moment, I'm deeply grateful for this season of expansion where my business and my passions and all of my purpose kind of is just unfolding like all at once. It's truly been a gift to experience the overwhelm of the abundance.
I love that for you. No, that's such a great feeling when you feel like you're like in that flow of things and things are just going and you're just like, I love what I do. I love everything that's happening. And it's just like, it feels right. That's really amazing to hear, especially like with everything going on in the world. It's nice when like you have things that are going well.
Yeah, I'm learning to pause and breathe, and to honor the privilege of being supported in order to expand and the options to see the space. There's so many options available to like where my business could go. And so staying focused has been a good challenge in the season, and being able to pause, listen, and allow myself to receive the support instead of pushing through it all alone. Starting a business is not easy. And it started, when I never thought that it would become what it is able to become. So just like in creating an outdoor space, it takes collaboration and teamwork. So that's really just the season I'm in of expansion, really tapping into that collaboration is really exciting.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Hi, it's me, Katerina. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to share with you something that can change the trajectory of your life. If you are ready to start your own architecture firm but are feeling overwhelmed by where to begin, I understand, because I felt the same way when I first embarked on my entrepreneurial journey. This is why I have created the ebook, The Mindful Blueprint for Launching Your Architecture Firm. This comprehensive workbook contains everything I wish I had known before starting my own firm. From building a solid business plan to creating your brand, the Mindful Blueprint for Launching Your Architecture Firm offers a step-by-step guide tailored to your timeline, whether you're launching your firm today, next month, or in a few years. Dive into essential topics like financial planning, organization strategies, and how to secure your first client, all in one convenient resource. That's right, you don't have to spend hours researching. I have done that for you so you can focus on building your business. And that's not all. With your purchase, you'll also receive an exclusive meditation for business owners, mindfulness tips, a crystal guide for support, and gratitude exercises to help you stay focused and positive throughout your journey. Turn your dream of having your own firm into a reality with the Mindful Blueprint for Launching Your Architecture Firm. Click on the link in the show notes to get your copy today. Now, let's dive into the episode. Well, so Amanda, did you always know you wanted to be a horticulturist? And I'm sorry if I'm going to butcher this word because before we got on the episode, we went through multiple iterations of me trying to say it. So it's horticulturist. So did you always know you wanted to be one?
Well, not really. As a kid, I grew up in a small town in Illinois on like an acre and a half of land on a dead end road with a water tower at the end, in between a beef farm and a dairy farm. And we always had a garden. My mom always grew flowers, and my ancestors were farmers, but I didn't ever think that horticulture or in really embracing the outdoors was going to be like a career path. I thought, oh, I'll go into the medical field, or I'll go into going to college. The first time I went to culinary school, and I thought that I would become like a food scientist and do some product development, something innovative, to make the world a better place, one meal at a time. But when I went to college and studied culinary arts, and then went to university and studied food science, I started studying food science and realized that food scientists were technologists. They weren't really chefs. And I went to the horticulture department to learn, okay, where does the food come from? Where does it all start? And so that's really when horticulture became a whole immersion of life for me.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. That's interesting. Yeah, food science. I wouldn't have thought about that. But I love that that kind of curiosity led you to being a horticulturist. I think that's really fascinating. And I think that shows like what you're passionate about is that early on curiosity. And so did you then change, I guess, degrees in that after that?
I did. I only spent one semester in the food science department, and I was dabbling in both. I was always finding myself, walking through the greenhouses and hanging out in a horticulture club and making friends with the plant people. And so after the first semester of food science, I did transition full send into horticulture. And I did my emphasis was in greenhouse operations and management, so controlled environments. And my work study job was first at the Horticulture Research Station, where I embarked on this food crop production enterprise where I had an acre of land, and I created this whole food system where we prepped the soil, we sowed the seeds in a greenhouse, transplanted them outside, grew them, tended them until they were ready to harvest, and harvest them, sanitize them, stored them, and then created a market back into Iowa State to sell the food that we grew to Iowa State faculty and students as like a mini farmers market.
Oh my gosh. It's incredible.
Yeah, it was a fun project.
Oh my gosh. How long would have that taken? I mean, that's amazing that they took you through the whole process in such detail. And that's not like, oh, next week we do one thing. It's like, that's a long project. That's incredible that you got such hands-on experience so early on.
Yeah, I think it's probably maybe because I was really focused on learning how to kind of become an entrepreneur. I knew that I wanted to do something entrepreneurial, but I wasn't sure what it was going to look like. And I really love to learn. I learned early on my personality type as an ENTJ. I was bold and confident, and I had a vision. I was a visionary, and I wasn't quite sure how to use those qualities or skills. But in college, the sky's the limit. You're able to just immerse yourself. And I had a career before I was a chef. And so I had a career, I had financial stability, I lived in a home, and so then when I left at 25 years old, left my culinary career to go back to college and become a student again, it was almost like I had this. My friends and colleagues were so much younger, and I had like this little piece of innate wisdom that was just a little bit more like those few years of life was just a little bit more wiser. And so I really loved being able to, like, nobody knew how old I was because I fit right in. I was like, let's go to school, let's be students, let's learn, let's grow. But I was like, I don't have to go in my 9 to 5, and I don't have to worry about paying any bills or, doing any adulting things, even though I did because I lived in a home and stuff at college. But it was really just like an opportunity to just become a student again and really learn. And so I think that the food crop production enterprise was really super fun project. And it was a lot of hard work, and there was definitely failures, definitely lessons learned, but it also made me realize, like, how can I I really could do this like in my own space. But thinking about being a farmer for like a large corporation, it kind of took me back to the food system and how it's subsidized and how there's only just a few little hands in the market and how it's farming on a large scale is not very sustainable and it's not very healthy in a way, you know? And so I really was after like coming back to these microclimates and like creating small sustainable systems that are localized, you know, how can more people be empowered to grow their own food and support themselves on what they can and then maybe co-op some things, you know, and come together. I lived my college years off of a CSA, farm to folk. I was gardening for a lady too for a little bit of gas money. She was president of the garden club and she created homeopathic pharmaceuticals for veterinary medicine.
Amazing.
And so I was her personal gardener. And it really was like that time of like through college when we're so overstimulated from all of college life, I felt like this time in the garden was like so healing to me. And it was so humbling and it kept me almost grounded, you know, to be checked in, but also checked out in a way.
And it teaches you so much patience too, I think. I think it teaches you so much patience being gardening because you have to wait for things to grow. I mean, there's just so much to it. But anyway, sorry to interrupt you. You're going on.
That's okay. Yeah, totally. It did teach me a lot of patience. It taught me a lot of grit too, you know, and also seeing things from a different lens. I mean, she had me pulling weeds that were actual plants and, you know, it was just so much. She had these bloom surveys of like 20 years of like plants that were blooming. So it was a lot of like learning Latin and learning blooming and learning environment and learning different native plants and different seasonal stuff. And so I really looked forward to that. But I guess that coincided with like, I knew that the farm to folk, the food, the CSA and shopping at the farmers markets was much more satisfying and also kind of took me back to my culinary roots too, you know, of being able to prepare my food and feed myself from things that were grown from either myself or from really locally. And it just made me feel really good. I felt like I was in a time of my life where I was really thriving and I was really healthy and I was becoming just more mindful from and slowing down. I mean, being a chef, I was like an adrenaline junkie, lived off of caffeine and you know, how fast can I shove this in my face and how many hours can I work? And it just was really an unhealthy life, honestly. And I didn't really realize it until I got the opportunity to go back to college and just kind of recreate my life. So yeah, I guess going into horticulture. And so after the food crop production enterprise, like that was like an internship, a work study kind of thing. I still was studying controlled environments. So my academic advisor suggested that I took a semester and went and worked in a greenhouse and learned that way too.
Wow.
So
no, it sounds like you were able to learn so much. And I think there's so much benefit. And I've heard it from other people who go to college. They either went to college beforehand, but when you go to college in your later years, you appreciate it so much more differently than like an 18, 19-year-old would. And I think that goes to show too, like how, like, yeah, you do have a little bit of extra like of that like life experience, but I think it makes you appreciate it so much differently. And I think you had to go through your culinary experience to learn that, to then appreciate it so much more. Even like, I don't know much about culinary. I watched The Bear and I'm assuming, I don't know if you know the show at all. The Bear, it's like a chef world and it's all very high pace and everything's happening. So I'm assuming that's how like the culinary world is. And like you just said, it's just like go, 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 where horticulture is much more slow pace. It's that patient. So wow, two different worlds to go from one fast pace to like such a slow pace. So that transition, how did that affect you, that whole transition? Like, how did you feel when you then finally were immersed in something that, yes, culinary was your passion, but now you have a new passion?
The ability to slow down is a skill. It's really hard to not get caught up in this world of convenience and this world of achievement. Like I was, graded or I it's kind of like in sports, you're based off your performance, you know, your success is based off of your performance. And that's kind of how culinary school was too, you know, how you perform is how you're recognized. And I did culinary competitions. I was in an elite culinary federation, American Culinary Federation of elite chefs. I was like recognized. So there were these like really high achievements and these really high expectations that I had set on myself to kind of dictate how I was successful. And I was always striving to be the best and excellent. And, you know, this perfectionism, like it was never perfect until it was. And I realized that those things like also held me back from just, it was a thief of my joy in a way. Because when I was able to actually slow down and allow things to just be in space and time, the opportunity to see life and love and appreciate from a different lens and the beauty of the world around us, the beauty of outdoor living spaces, of the beauty of listening to the birds and listening to the wind blow between the sea oats as they're drying in the fall season, or seeing the birds or eating the seeds, or seeing the butterflies landing on a flower and their proboscis comes out and they're sucking the nectar from the flowers, or, you know, hearing the buzzing of the bumblebees and really seeing like one teeny tiny seed like radically emerge into the world and become this like 6 foot tall plant, you know? I mean, I was just like so amazed at what beauty is around us, that walking down the street and seeing trees and recognizing, wow, that's an Acer rubrum, or that's a, you know, Fraxinus americana, or, you know,
Oh, good for you. I don't know. I'm terrible with plants. I have no green thumb, like, so good for you. But even as you were describing like the nature, like, honestly, I just like completely relaxed. Like I was almost like in a meditative mode as you were describing like the butterfly and the bees. And it's just like, it just seems so calming. And so coming from such a calming then environment, and now you're a horticulturist, did you always know you wanted to start your own business?
Well, the business kind of came, I always knew that there was going to be a time where I was going to start a business. I just was a little bit fearful, and like I don't have the whole thing planned out. Don't even know what I'm doing, right? But thankfully, my brother started a business. He's 5 years younger than me, and he started a business back in 2019 up in Minnesota. He's an arborist. It's Dutchman's Tree Service, and he took the leap of faith and just is a big risk taker. And for me, being a little bit older than him, I feel like I learned things the hard way and I made all the mistakes so that he didn't have to. But at the same time, it was kind of reversed. You know, I played it really safe, and he took a lot of risks. And so now we're kind of like, you know, he's helping me and I'm helping him. And so we came from, my parents were in the military, and I was born into on the Air Force Base. I was a firstborn child. I was born on the Air Force Base in Minot, North Dakota, and my parents finished their term and then came to Illinois closer to my mom's mom, so my grandma. And my mom was in the medical field. She was a medical coder. And my dad, he was in construction, drove a semi truck for a couple of years. And then he landed a job at the Rock Island Arsenal as a firefighter and then worked his way up. So both, you know, those are not entrepreneurial, right? But we've always been self-sufficient, and we've built everything that we've ever owned. And so I always had that, my brother and I always had that kind of trait of like building. You either, if you don't have it, you make it happen, right? If you want something bad enough, you make it happen. And so that was something that I knew that it was going to take me somewhere. So when I graduated college and I was working for a greenhouse in North Carolina, I moved to North Carolina, was working for a very large greenhouse, and just to kind of figure out like the systems and automation. I was also gardening because I had a lot of time on my hands and I wanted to learn North Carolina plants coming from the Midwest. And so that was like my little business. It was super low key. I mean, this veterinarian wanted her yard to look nice and wanted it to be manicured, and she didn't really want to do it. And so she literally just paid me to go out there and just dig it, play, and learn and stuff. So I was like, this is going to turn into something. I just don't know what it is yet.
Yeah.
So from there, I really loved the design aspect. And so when I started looking into software or just like how I could, I was looking at landscape design job descriptions to kind of figure out how to market myself and create this plan around that. I actually found a job that had the perfect description. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to play it safe and I'm going to go work for them and learn on their dime so that I can figure out some things, maybe not the hard way, but then still garden, and still do that. And I really fell in love with that. I was able to take I was in sales and landscape design. So in the residential, we only had one residential, I was a residential division it was just me. I met homeowners for consultations. I designed, I quoted it. I sold the project, the hardscaper. I met the hardscaper on site. We would draw it out on the ground, paint it out, go over the design, and then, make sure that all the materials were ordered and they were there. I did have a project manager-ish. He was like the superintendent over a different division, but he was helping me. And I was just learning hardscapes and construction basically and creating these spaces. It was super fun and I loved it. I grew it into 6 figures and they were really gearing towards more maintenance and not residential design build. So they were kind of phasing out somebody and grooming me to kind of step into the role of an estimator. And I was seeing a lot of architectural plans and bidding on these very large jobs. And I mean, I just felt like this calling to stick with the residential design build. And so I went to another very small business doing some cool projects and took the opportunity to learn and focused on becoming better at sales and becoming better at business development. And it was less about design. It was more of collaborating and building reputable contract partnerships and things like that. So once I realized that I was able to do all of that, I was like, man, I don't know that I want to have the headache of all of this, but how can I still be a part of this and still provide these really exceptional client experiences? Because people trusted me and people they tapped into me. I was able to listen to them and hear what their dreams were. And we were able to bring these spaces together through building collaboration. I listened to them, honor their vision, designed with intention, and while working alongside the hardscapers, the irrigation teams, the landscape installers, the construction contractors, and some architects, we were able to piece things together and really put the project together as a whole. And I think that's what I fell in love with. And so trying to come out of doing that for somebody else, taking all the benefit and kind of shrinking myself because it's like a really men-dominated industry. And so I was like, you know what? I think I could probably do this for myself and create my own systems and build my own teams and really celebrate this collaborative approach into bringing outdoor living to life. So I left the job and I started from scratch, just from planting little seeds. And it's still life, but
yeah. Well, amazing. And I think that's amazing because I was going to ask, did you go to business school? How did you learn how to know? But you went the route of the real life school. You didn't go to business school. You're and I love that you found businesses that you could learn from. You're like, oh, I like this. The reason I'm going for this job is to learn. And I think that is such a valuable way to learn about what you want to do. You find the big picture, this is the degree I want. And then you start to kind of niche down on what you want to do. And then you're how do I learn how to run a business? A lot of experience I have, I never went to business school. A lot of the experience and how I've learned to run my business is by the places I've worked. You learn the do's and don'ts. You're like, oh, I definitely don't want to do that. I definitely want to do this. And you can't learn that without having to go through the different processes. So I love that you went to work at different places to learn. And then you've had that, I don't know, that spark, that fire in you to go off on your own, like even hearing about your family, hard workers, because being an entrepreneur is hard work. It's so much work. And so you have had that kind of foundation your whole life, and you've just been building on it and building on it. And to use architecture terms and, landscape terms, like you've been building the foundation, but then and growing from a seed slowly and patiently to be having your business. So how long have you been in business now?
Ooh, well, officially, I filed my LLC April 15th, 2025. So
Okay.
the tax day.
Nice.
Not quite 1 year yet.
Okay, good. So you're like a little seedling still in the entrepreneur world. So how do you like it now? Coming up on your 1 year anniversary in a few months, and when the episode airs, it'll be about a month away. So how do you feel now?
Well, I was feeling almost defeated and depressed and deflated, after a few months I was almost like, wow, I'm burning out again. Like, this is not the reason why I chose to do this. I was feeling like the overwhelm and the defeat and like, wow, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough team members. I don't have enough this. And I had to very quickly hit the reset button and realize that no, I'm choosing to grow this business slowly and sustainably and use the resources around me while learning to balance every hat that comes with being a solopreneur. And it's okay. I feel really blessed. My husband has been able to kind of support us and allow me to take the time that I need to grow this business. And without his, financial stability, really, it would be very hard for me to be able to do this because it's so hard. I tried working full time and doing it. And there was just a point where I was like, you know what? It's either I'm all in or I'm all out. So I had to just kind of go all in. And so really, I feel very blessed and grateful for the networking opportunities that I've put myself in. I've really tried to position myself in putting myself in rooms where it stretches me, where I feel uncomfortable, where I'm learning how to soften a little bit and be vulnerable and allow myself to be helped and not feel as if, wow, they're helping me so much and I have nothing to give or I have not enough money to pay. But it's not really about that. It's letting that ego go and just allowing the exchange to happen. I mean, people tell me that I'm like a lighthouse. And when I show up authentically, it's like there's this vibration that they feel that they just want to be a part of and help and grow. And I see that in other people too. So with networking, that's really been my superpower for learning about branding, about marketing, about SEO, about using AI, about those things. And no, my website is still under construction and my social media is very elementary and I'm figuring things out one day at a time. But you know what? Like having a team of people, I find myself putting myself in positions with people who are 10 steps ahead of me and also staying around people who are also on the same path as me. And I think having that support in both areas has allowed me to feel comfort and strength in feeling like I'm not alone. Everybody who starts a business goes through the motions and everybody's journey looks so different, but we all have basic fundamental approaches. We all need to know these basic fundamental things. And then it kind of just, you take it into your own, create your own story. And so networking has been a blessing. And to be in Charlotte, I was in Charlotte since 2021, and I started my business like in Charlotte, the Lake Norman area. And last year, towards the end of the summer, my husband had a job transfer to Raleigh. And I was almost like, all of these seeds that I've been planting the whole time, what is going to happen? My new place, and my whole work and these in-person I was like, okay, here's an opportunity, Amanda. This is your opportunity to go again. It's not a catastrophe, it's an opportunity. So, Ladies Lifestyle Network was born in Raleigh in January of this year. I have an amazing team and mentor. There's 18 other cities across the United States. And because I was attending Ladies Lifestyle Network events where I was learning about business, about entrepreneurship, about anything from branding to marketing to AI to trying to keep yourself sane through mental health, through nutrition, through SEO and websites and building and storytelling. All those things are pieces of business that people go to college for, but I've just learned through other people's experiences. And so it was like hiring a business coach, but not having to pay, $20,000 or some crazy amount to have a business coach. So that's been, I hope that answered the question.
You did. You really did. There's so many points I want to touch back on, I think, but you segued perfectly into the Ladies Lifestyle Network. I wanted to touch base on that, but a few things I like that you said, like you talked about like your website and some things just aren't there. And I think that's okay. And that's how I had it. I made my website on like Wix and it was just like the basics. I'm like, I just want to look legit and boom, done. And then once I have enough capital and money, I'm going to invest. And so last year I invested with Liz Sidnor. She's been a guest on the podcast, I think twice. I was like, I want you to do my website and then find like things will come and you just know when the right moment is, but like certain things will come. And I know somebody was telling me, I can't remember, it must have been a guest. It was like, yeah, there's different, like you have your 1 year problems and 1 year things that you're working on. And then don't get overwhelmed with certain things that could be like a 3 year or 5 year, 5th year problem. So like focus on, as you're growing, just what you think, what you want to work on this next year. If there's bigger goals, of course, like maybe one day you want to have your own space, physical space. Well, that could be a year 5, year 10, however you think about it. I think it's in those bite-sized pieces. So it's good you already have that mindset, like things will come. There were a few other things I wanted to touch base on, but I think the networking is a big aspect. And I applaud you for relocating as you're starting your business because everything seems to be word of mouth in our industry, and just the word of mouth is big. And so the fact that even just a few months into your business, you had to relocate, but you had the tools that you knew what to do when relocating, I think that's probably helped you just kind of hit the ground running and be more successful because you kind of knew, okay, here's what I've had to do. Yes, you have to kind of do it all over again, but you had those seeds planted. And I think the networking is huge and with other women. And I thought entrepreneurship, I would be alone because I don't have colleagues or coworkers. And I've felt less alone in entrepreneurship than I did working a 9-to-5 job. Like it's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you feel that same way? I mean, I think you seem to have like a huge network now, or you're working on a huge network and being part of the director. So do you think, the networking has really helped you?
Absolutely. It was, maybe you can relate to this as an architect and coming from kind of the construction or building or maybe the larger commercial entities where networking maybe looked a little more blue collar, male dominated. You go, you schmooze and booge and take your business card and make sure you have your 90-second pitch ready to give, and I just found myself like, I was looking for intentional ways, but also within the green industry because I was, in the green industry. And so I'm trying to figure out, and all my life I've been in some sort of organization to push me professionally or to learn in some way because I'm a lifelong learner. I love to learn. And so I've always felt like that's been important to have that professional resume, like builder, using LinkedIn and things like that, but also just having those business contacts where you can call and be able to ask questions or, hey, I know you may know somebody. Is there any way you can hook me up with this person or make this introduction, these referrals? And so I found myself like in going to these really kind of dry networking events where I just felt like I had this Rolodex of business cards and I would follow up and I would try to create these relationships, but it was always like so much work. There were
It
a few
is.
that I felt like, yes, this is authentic and genuine, and I can just pick up the phone and chit chat with you. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
think us entrepreneurs, us innovators and creators and the collaborators, we really, I mean, I love chit chatting. I love to just be able to pick up the phone, have a conversation, just check
Mm-hmm.
in and see how you're doing, because it's just like those little things, that make a
Mm-hmm.
big difference. I think in knowing that we're not robotic and we're not scripted and we're real humans, and I
Mm-hmm.
felt like those networking things were kind of just exactly that. It was really just, I ended up having business cards that I would be having conversations with other people, and I would hear what they're looking for. And I would be like, wait, I have a contact for you. Let me go through my
Mm-hmm.
Rolodex. I'll send it, and I was
Yeah.
giving away business cards that were not even mine.
Yeah.
So I found the Ladies Lifestyle Network and another one called the Beauty Boost of Charlotte, which Beauty
Mm-hmm.
Boost is all over North America too. And those were like, where do women at?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the women
Yes.
who like can relate? Okay. Cause I've got
Yes.
too many men around me who are,
Yep.
our energies are, I'm
Very
being sucked
different.
dry. Okay. I need
Yeah.
some women.
Yeah.
So,
No, I completely agree with that. I think too, I've saw it because also a lot of the networking, it's very energy draining. And like when you're starting out, you're like, well, you have to go to all these networking events, but then nobody's doing the work right at home, like, or at your office. Like you are the one who has to be going out there. And so it's once you become, and it sounds like you're very mindful of, okay, and you have to test it out. You have to see which organizations make sense. And you go a few times and you're like, okay, consistency is key. But this is your energy that you're giving away, your time that you're giving away. So you want to put it where you know the investment is going to be big because it's an investment of your time, your energy. And then you hope that that investment through whatever network program or community you joined will come back. And it's just like, I think being intentional with it. And that's exactly what you're doing, especially with the Ladies Lifestyle Network. And so that's really, really great to hear.
I really love what you just said. There's so much valid truth behind, well, your network can be your net worth, but also your energy. Where
Mm-hmm.
your energy goes, the money flows in
Yes.
a way. And like my sphere of influence is relatively small, even though we have a big community and I'm starting the community, like growing community here. I'm going to Raleigh female founders. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to women in tech. I'm still checking out some other groups, but I'm also very mindful when you're an entrepreneur, when you're a solopreneur, when you're a business owner, when you're trying to start, like you have limited time, and all the
Yeah.
time that you have is valuable in some way,
Mm-hmm.
energetically or monetarily or something. And so I really think that surrounding myself, like creating a sphere of influence of specialists or
Mm-hmm.
of other experts is really what builds a sustainable community. Everybody almost has like a role, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not competition, it's complementing each other,
Yes. Yes.
and that's really where Ladies Lifestyle Network is. That's really what it is it's a community of women who also believe in the same values and are at different places within their business and in their life, but it's a place where we can come together with our cups empty, ready for them to be filled, where it's safe and it's not judgmental and it's
Yeah.
not where you don't have to shrink yourself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's so uncomfortable when you go into a room and when you are already like, oh, I'm not pretty enough, or I don't have as much, knowledge
Whatever.
as
Yeah.
her, or
Or you're young.
my
You feel too
website
young.
doesn't look as good, or, like
Yeah.
nobody
Mm-hmm.
wants to shrink themselves. Like we're all real human. And so like, that's really the message that I want to bring awareness to is it's not clicky or schmoozy bougie, or yes, I
Mm-hmm.
encourage you to bring your business cards and connect with other people, but it's really just highlighting local female founders in our community, really being strong and intentional and creating culture, I guess. And And I think that blends beautifully with like my personality and my, I'm a manifesting generator. So like a multidimensional builder. And once I started to learn, like, I put myself in these positions and I was introduced to different things, like a little bit woo woo, like learning about your gut health and being comfortable talking about poop and, what you're eating and also how you're sleeping and where your hormone levels and your cortisol. So it's like how you fill your container, how much are you exercising? Are you living cyclically within your hormones? Like understanding what's going on internally and really being able to apply that with my business too, like running my business that way and surrounding myself with people who really fit the puzzle. I feel like I've found so much more value and focus on being able to move forward just in life, but also in business, because it's a journey. It's not something, these business dreams are not linear and look so different for everybody. And like you said, there are first year problems, second year problems, and 5-year problems. And even though I have this beautiful big vision, it likely is going to pivot and change in the next year or two, even.
Or the next day or two. You never know. It could be next week. You never know. That's the thing about entrepreneurship, is just like, you just never know. So it can just ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
Amanda, thank you so much for taking the time to come on From the Honeycomb podcast. So much of what you said resonates with how I feel as a business owner, and I'm just really grateful you got to share your story and how your business is. I know so many people are going to resonate with it. And where can listeners find you and connect with you?
Well, you can email me like old school at lenaamanda@gmail.com as my website's under construction. You can also find me on the Instagram at botanical_horizons or Amanda.Lena or Ladies Lifestyle Network RDU. That's pretty much it. I'm not going to put my phone number or address on here.
You're good. Carrier pigeon. We'll send you, or snail mail. There you go. That's real old school. Or send a fax. Yes. But Amanda, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You shared so many gems of wisdom too. And I wish you all the best in your entrepreneurship journey.
Thank you so much. I've really appreciated chatting with you. And I also can't wait to continue to follow you and see you grow as a young entrepreneur as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for spending this time with me on From the Honeycomb podcast. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to rate, review, and share it with someone who's building something of their own. To stay connected, follow along on Instagram at From the Honeycomb podcast. You can also support the show through the Patreon link in the show notes. It really truly does help keep these conversations going. And if you want more behind-the-scenes insight, reflections, and tools for running a mindful and successful architecture business, be sure to subscribe to my monthly newsletter. All links are in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, stay curious.